suspended ANC Secretary-General has filed a notice of his intention to appeal a Gauteng High Court judgment that upheld his suspension. President Cyril Ramaphosa, Deputy Secretary-General Jessie Duarte and the party are respondents in the matter. This comes at a time when Ramaphosa is confronted with questions about a possible cabinet reshuffle and his plans for suspended Health Minister Dr. Zweli Mkhize. To unpack all this, we're joined by political analyst Professor Barry Hanyane. Prof, good evening. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Some have said that this move by the suspended Secretary-General is a delaying tactic, basically, and not simply just him allowing the process to unfold until, the ANC resolves his future. What do you say?
Good evening to you. Good evening to your viewers. I will take a slightly different approach to the whole analysis. I think it's more of crying out to the ANC to say this is a legitimate position that he wants to occupy, and Newzroom provided that platform. There he was challenging that resolution that was put on the table at the conference. And beyond that, then, of course, there were issues within the party through the disciplinary committee and the commission, rather. And in the end, the NEC had to weigh in, and a suspension obviously was offered. So it's an outcry on his part to say he cannot afford to let this unchallenged. After all, it's taking away his space of saying, I'm legitimate, I'm not corrupt, I'm here to serve the ANC, I've done so in so many years, and I want to be seen to be a disciplined, loyal cadre of the organization. But then, of course, there are these allegations outside of the party that he has to deal with. So navigating these treacherous paths, it's a big concern that I don't think he will be able to actually succeed, seeing that he's fighting these battles from different fronts.
And when he, argues in his papers, part of what he says is that with respect, the court erred in failing to answer the primary question whether Mr. Ramaphosa's suspension was conducted in terms of the real step-aside rule by the authorized person acting in good faith. And he continues to also say the court also erred in accepting that Mr. Ramaphosa could be a judge in his own cause and participate in the decision for his own exoneration. Some who are backing him in this particular move are saying that this argument might hold some water, despite the fact that a lower court was not convinced by this.
No, it's like I said, it's playing into that space of victimization, and once such takes place, it is easy to point fingers, and then other analysts would see this more of an excuse. But so much so, we should leave this to legal experts to take us further. But from where I'm seated, I think it begs the question, was it his way of actually drawing the fault line that says, these are my enemies, including the president himself? He's not on my side, and I would like to go for him. Whether this is out of vengeance or whether it's pure sort of like an internal party process, one needs to draw such lines, and I'm afraid it speaks to the first hunch that this is more of a vengeance, seeing that it came after he received his suspension.
And all of this is happening at a time when the president himself is finding, is finding himself in a corner, given the recent situation that has unfolded with the unrest and also around the health minister, Zweli Mkhize. The president told reporters this week that he's still not ready to take action and should be allowed to be given space while he has seen the SIU report. Does he have the luxury of time, given what the SIU now has put before the courts?
No, he doesn't, Bongiwe. It's my understanding that he is the captain of the resolutions taken in Nazareth. And one key resolution is that of anti-corruption. But again, that resolution cannot be undertaken in a vacuum. My understanding is that the ANC needs to modernize. And part of modernizing means you don't want to hear issues, either tabloids or real, that staff members at Luthuli House are not being paid. So there is no formality of some kind and order in that political party. But your question then says, is Cyril Ramaphosa in a comfortable space? He is not. He is faced with so many problems. The Mkhize saga, the issues of internal factions which by and large contributed to the anarchy that we saw in the country not so long ago. All of these are a way of putting him under pressure to say, perhaps it's high time that we put in place people with a better vision, people who have a sense of agency and can indeed bring in a particular sense of acumen, experience, the right qualifications, and the right attitude to the issues of politics. But he has a hurdle. He needs to via the alliance to get their blessings, as has been the norm. No wonder why when his cabinet was put in place for the first time, there were particular delays. Although the explanation was he needed to consult first to get the consent of those that were supposed to fill in those executive positions. But my understanding is that the alliance has a say in this matter, which then justifies one thing, that here lies a president who does not have the necessary power to actually push his own decisions, push his own vision, and worst case, his very own loyal and trusted comrades are letting him down.
And when you look at, the issue of letting him down, we saw during the unrest ministers speaking in different voices, causing confusion. Even, one saying, I've sent the report, I did not receive a report, it's an insurrection, it's not insurrection. He then comes and says, we were caught, ill-prepared. Others are saying, no, we had information, we knew what we were doing. All of these messages coming from one group of leaders who are supposed to even be able to pick up the phone, really, and speak before they come and address the nation. When he, was being asked by journalists on the issue of a cabinet reshuffle, he said he's still considering this. Should he be moving with speed here and showing those in the security cluster the door, as some have suggested, including then the health minister, as the calls around him are growing? And how difficult of a position is this going to put him in the ANC?
Well, like I said, he's powerless, but his sense of powerlessness actually puts the issue of public trust and confidence more of the unintended victim. How will ordinary folks, ourselves, have faith in him when one, he does not have power, he can't take decisions quickly, he'd rather refer certain matters to the established, legitimate public institutions, your Hawks, your NPA, and your SIU as well. That may not seem to be enough in dealing with issues of corruption, both within the party as well as in government. But taking the matter further, I'm also tempted to say maybe the vacuum here lies in the fact that from his office going forward, there might not be, and from Nazareth in particular, it's a question of rhetoric that says we need to adopt and implement anti-corruption stance. But where is the overall overarching strategy that says a fellow comrade can be disciplined, a fellow comrade, and here we are today, a former president finding himself in jail. So how many of these high-profile cases are actually proven to actually draw in public confidence, public trust, and of course satisfy the requirement of the rule of law? So it's a long way to go to want to see this president being in charge and seen to be in charge, and of course with the help of public institutions in that path.
Should he reshuffle his cabinet?
I think this is the opportune time. But at the same time, I would not necessarily expect such an action to be done as in yesterday. I think he has a lot of work to do. He needs to go back to the alliance to get their blessings. He needs to sit down and actually firstly activate that office in the presidency. It has a very cardinal role to play, and we are not seeing that role that says, where are the men and women of high caliber skills, high caliber experience, and not necessarily from his own political party, by the way, but people who are able to be patriotic and willing to serve. You have Patricia de Lille, who raised her hand to say, I'm one of those. If you pick me, I'm able to serve. And not that her own portfolio is free from challenges and problems. There are problems, but rightly so. This is the time to actually go back to the basics. In Mandela era, invitations were extended to other, on a rather bipartisan basis. Why not now? But of course, have the confidence and the trust of those persons.
Some have argued to say he must not only look at opposition benches, but he should be looking at even experts who may even be tasked with leading the health portfolio, for example, right now, especially during a pandemic. Some have suggested that maybe even going towards the scientists to try and lead us during this way.
What surprises me with this administration and previous, perhaps by and large, is that the whole manifestation of the concept of meritocracy has not been taken very seriously. As your question alludes, why not employ a health scientist in the current portfolio? Of course, pending the Mkhize case as to which direction does it take. But it's not only that. It's in the area of intelligence, for instance, where we've seen, as you say, the Minister of Police, the Minister of Intelligence, and of course the military as well, speaking in tongues. So it tells us that that old culture under Mbeki's tenure of saying ministers must prepare a cabinet memo all the time, by implication, speak to your other ministers so that you don't contradict yourselves. You need such vision. You need such a strategy and a practice that says, here's the cabinet that is made up of capable men and women who are able to take this country forward, but in that process follow certain protocols that speaks to excellence. And once again, that office office in the presidency must be seen to lead that process and come back and tell us as the public, did they evaluate these ministers? Are these ministers fit? And not necessarily to promote political interests and preferences.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Prof. Certainly do appreciate those insights. That was political analyst Professor Berry Hanyane.